But Jane was like, red flags? What are those? Hey everybody, and welcome back to my book club. So today I'm going to be talking about a book called The Wife Upstairs, and this is a thriller. This was one of the most highly anticipated thrillers of the year. I haven't done a book talk in a long time. I honestly really do miss doing them. The reason I'm doing one is because I vowed to commit to making more content because I went on complete video slumps last year, and I vowed to make sure that that doesn't happen. And the easiest way for me to make sure that that doesn't happen is to do a video like this. A video that doesn't require me to read a shit ton of books. A video that's current, that deals with current books. For the record, I didn't hate the book, I liked it, I gave it 3 stars, but it was a lot. It was full of stuff that I just need to vent about, and this is how I vent, okay? This is therapy for me. So hopefully you've already read the book, because if you haven't, then I'm gonna be spoiling it. I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this thing. But if you have not read the book and you just want to hear my thing, I'm gonna say I gave it 3 stars. It was good, it was fun, it was a serviceable thriller. It is a modern day retelling of Jane Eyre. The main character in this book is named Jane, and the main guy is named Eddie, and you know, Edward Rochester, Jane Eyre. They didn't even try to hide it. That's fine. So much of this book was based on the backstory of Eddie, which I didn't find to be too interesting. I was more interested in wondering whether or not Jane would find out what was going on, and I could have done with more of that. What I did like was that they did change the ending. The ending of this book is not in any way, shape, or form the same ending as the original Jane Eyre, which, context, is one of my favorite classics of all time. It was the first classic I read by myself at the age of 12, so I kind of do have a very significant attachment to that book and to that story in general, so that was part of why I was so interested in reading this specific book. This entire book is a series of scenes proving the age-old equation: white people plus boredom divided by financial struggles multiplied by conventional attractiveness equals
crazy fucking shit.
This isn't the kind of book one reviews on a critical level, I don't think, so instead I'm just gonna kind of walk you through what I thought. So spoiler warning, I'm gonna get into spoilers now. I'm gonna talk about this whole thing because this was freaking... it was nuts. Kind of a mixed bag. Okay, so I just need to talk about our main character for a while. Her name is Jane, and she starts off the book as a professional dog walker. And naturally, Jane is not her real name because she's kind of on the run from something sinister from her past. So she is named after a label used to describe women in a very passive-aggressive way. She's a dog walker who may or may not have caused the death of a foster family parent, intentionally, maybe. So I just need to talk about the first scene. So in the first scene, she is walking a client's dog, and she gets very easily distracted by the pretty houses around her. She then proceeds to fall in love with the first guy she sees, and she does so when he nearly runs her over with his car. We're off to a pretty good start. His name is Eddie, and unlike Edward Rochester, Eddie over here has a personality as interesting and riveting as watching ice melt. And this is when Jane realizes that she is madly in love with this man upon their first meeting. And because of all his amazing qualities, we kind of fall in love with him too. So what are these so-called qualities that had us like fawning over this guy? He's got a big house, and you know what they say about men with big houses and fancy cars.
Compensating.
And he was kind enough to not run her over and turn her into roadkill. Prince Charming. And this is when I started calling bullshit, because immediately he sees that she's a dog walker, and right then and there he's like, you know what, I'm thinking of getting a dog of my own, so I'm gonna hire you as a dog walker in advance to walk my dog that I don't have yet. So just like that, Jane has an excuse to have a hot rich guy in her immediate social circle, and not only have him there, but be required to see him every day, to get paid to walk his dog.
That was easy.
This man is willing to purchase an animal who he will have to buy food for the next 10 plus years and clean the shit of for the next 10 plus years just to spend time with plain Jane, who he just met. This is a man you let do butt stuff to you. So in order to get this guy, all Jane had to do was distract herself by looking at pretty houses, to the point that she nearly gets run over by a car, and she gets a new man, a new house, and a dog. This is unfair. This is unfair. If I did this, if I was looking at the pretty houses and not minding my surroundings and someone nearly ran me over, I would get told to go myself, okay? Like, I would not get anything. So then blah blah blah, they go on dates. Can we just talk about how Eddie's wife's name is So in Jane Eyre, there was also a wife in the attic. Like, Edward Rochester had gotten married, and then he put the wife in the attic. Over here, that same thing happens, but they do it differently. The, the name of the name of Eddie's ex-wife, who's put in the attic, is B, and B is short for. I'm sorry if anyone went deaf. B is short for Bertha. So in the book, they call her B the whole time, but for the rest of this, we're just gonna call her Bertha, okay? It's just too fucking good, man. When I first heard the name Bertha, I imagined this meme. Like, this is what... And the way Bertha was described was, you know, obviously very specific in this book. She was seen as this very beautiful woman who made her own and got this whole company start up for herself. But because of that name alone, the only person I could imagine playing Bertha in the movie I made in my head of this book was this meme. So I imagine this beautiful actress playing Jane, this beautiful actor playing Eric, and the ex-wife being played by this meme over here. So a lot of the conflict of this book surrounds the ethical dilemma that Jane has when she learns that Eddie has a dead wife and that the wife went missing the same night as another wife of one of the guys on the street. I, for one, when I was reading this book, was like, girl, run! But Jane was like, red flags? What are those? Plain Jane over here is excellent at ignoring every single red flag that she encounters in this book. What do I say to that? Girl, same. So since I was already familiar with the Jane Eyre story, I knew that Bertha was probably going to be alive upstairs, and sure enough, she was, because in following chapters, we do get perspectives of her. She is basically only in the story to recall her backstory and her romance with Eddie. And it is here when we learn about the running theme with the women in this book, and it's their complete and utter lack of awareness of red flags in relationships. Bertha is literally scolded by Blanche to not marry Eddie, a man she met on one beach trip. So in this book we have like not one, but two women who bump into this man and instantly like throw their panties at him. But here's the thing, I was more inclined to believe Plain Jane's situation because, you know, she had a shitty roommate and he was giving her shit. But Bertha, she had friends, she had a life, she had a career, she had a lucrative business of her own. What's her excuse? Miss fucking Independent here, Bertha, what is your excuse? Despite her friend warning her that he was just only in it for the money, she ignores the warning and goes along with it. So I love how when Jane and Eddie inevitably end up together, that's a tongue twister, she gets promoted from dog walker to fake friend to fake upper middle class housewives of Alabama. Real Housewives of Alabama. You know the type of women. These passive-aggressive bitches who compliment you by low-key insulting you. Hi, I'm Maribeth. It is nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. I'm Carol. Now I know that my pineapple upside-down cake tastes really good, but if you eat too much... No, never mind. I know you don't look a day over 50, but high cholesterol at your age... Better watch that. 50? I'm 35, Maribeth. These are the kinds of people that Jane ends up hanging out with. Jane realizes that being Eddie's girlfriend is not enough, nay. So she decides that she wants to be his wife because of the pressure put on her by the women I just reenacted. Like, she fakes looking at grad school pictures in California and uses this to emotionally blackmail Eddie into marrying her, because that's totally how feminism works. This is totally how being a modern young woman works. Like, why be independent when you can emotionally manipulate a man into submitting to you? Fucking patriarchy smashed. I just need to rant a bit about how Jane is just so obtuse. She just ignores every single clue that something might be up with Eddie over here is when she's in the lake house and she goes into town and she overhears two random people talking about how Eddie is hella suspect and sketchy because he was there that night, and only then does it occur to her that something might be up with him. And we're just like, woman, do you seriously need random people explaining this to you? Like, are you an alien with no deductive skills? And honestly, I think the biggest mystery about this book is why any of these women like Eddie. What do they see in this man? The only thing we can infer is that he is very gorgeous, but whenever he opens his mouth, it's like, bitch, it's not that deep. I just need to comment on this way the women treat each other in this book. Bertha and Blanche have this friendship where they were friends as young people in high school, and despite the fact that Bertha had to go to college out of state, but then they retained their friendship. So Blanche married this guy named Trip, and Bertha married Eddie, and because Blanche was jealous of Bertha or something, Blanche hired Eddie to do some reconstruction in their house. And because Bertha feels paranoid that something is going on with them, she sleeps with Trip. It's like, what is this 1980s women logic? Like, I just think it's so regressive to have a book that portrays female friendships as things that don't actually exist. Like, the only meaningful relationship a woman can have is with another man. It just feels so regressive. And why in 2021? It's not even 2020 anymore, it's 2021. This book is filled with women who pretend to be friends with one another but never actually have each other's backs, you know? And sometimes women resort to murder when they're jealous because bitches be crazy. And this book wasn't even published in 1980, so awesome! And Eddie over here, his only significant trait is to get women to act in ways that are just so rampantly misogynistic. Like, the way the women in this story dumb themselves down and act like fucking idiots to win his affection is just like, why? Mr. Eddie over here has a package that people would kill for, literally. I want to talk about how the ending over here was quite different from the ending in Jane Eyre, because like in Jane Eyre and Eddie end up together. He ends up blind because of a fire in their house. But over here, I appreciate that Bertha concocted this whole thing to avoid the death penalty. She was like, I will be a prisoner, a willing prisoner in the house, but you gotta help me out, Eddie. It was just so gross to learn that Eddie was like low-key like fucking them at the same time. Like, he was like, when he was done with Jane, he would go up and he would be with Bertha. It was like, just nope. All in all, I feel like this book, despite being a retelling of Jane Eyre, wasn't meant to be taken seriously. To me, it kind of felt like a bad Netflix thriller that you watch just to pass the time. And it wasn't even a bad book, it was kind of just like an airplane read for me. But the biggest thing for me is like, I never really got the sense of why this couple needed to be together. Like, I was never really rooting for Eddie and Jane, and I wasn't really rooting for Eddie and Bertha because I didn't have much investment into them. Because the only thing we know about them is our suspicion that he was only marrying her for the money because of this big company she owned that he inevitably inherited. So I don't know why he would want to continue on living with Bertha, and I don't know why Bertha would want to continue on living with him. So yeah, all in all, good but not great. I enjoyed it, and this video is going to be a mess and a real bitch to edit because my thoughts were all over the place. And yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends, and I will love you forever. Let me know if you want me to do more book talks, and let me know which ones in specific I should do them on. Hopefully current ones, because those are the ones that get the most views. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you tune in to future stuff I put out. But yeah, thank you and later.